Welcome back to the rest of the story. Well, I'm out at Ryan's. I just got done feeding out here. I had 3 different lots that needed, well, feed and bedding. And since I'm by myself, it's good practice to go back and check and recheck, just make sure all the gates are shut. I mean, Ryan's gonna be home tonight, but just want to make sure that everything is locked up good. Wind's making my eyes water. They're calling for 3 to 12 inches tomorrow morning. So I just want to make sure everything was bedded down nice. Everybody out here got fodder for bedding, corn fodder bales. They got bedding. And the thing is with the corn fodder, these guys not so much. You guys can see. These are my dad's feeder calves plus the one strangler off to the side there. She's mine. I got another one in here. She is part of my growing beef herd. I got the 2 out here. I got the 3 at the home farm that I have to go and feed yet and bed down. Let's talk my cattle real quick, because I know I talk about them all the time, but I got really close and really serious to buying 12 head of, they were registered Red Angus, which the registered isn't really amount to much to me. I'm not planning on doing a registered herd, but yeah, eyes are watering. It was 12 A-eyed Red Angus, first calf heifers, which isn't something I was necessarily looking for, but they were synchronized to start calving March 17th. So all 12 of those cows, heifers, were supposed to start calving within, well, ideally they'd have been started and finished within about a week of March 17th, which is what I'm looking for. I still am looking for cows that are gonna be calving here early spring, March, April, so I can sell the calves December, January. The problem is I found them on Craigslist. They weren't spoken for at the time. I was the second caller, and the first caller ended up, buying them all, which can't say I blame them, because they were, according to the pictures, they were a really nice group. They were straight west of us in Guttenberg, and more than I wanted to pay, but they were exactly what I needed, if that makes any sense. So it was actually worth the extra money, just to get my cow herd really kick-started. That would have put me up to, I got 3 cows right now that are bred, so 15 head of cows, or 15 head to calve this year. I mean, 15 head of calves to sell this fall at feeder calves. The plan was to pay them off fully this year. If I would have paid the extra money for that group, it would have taken 2 years. But the money that I did have to borrow, it's out on a 5-year term, and my mindset is to just pay them off. The sooner I can pay them off, it's money that I don't owe anybody. So 15 head at, I figured 800, it was like 810 a piece with prices at the time. That's a nice equipment payment. I can either buy a few more cows, calves out of pocket, and probably buy some equipment like a skid steer and a decent manure spreader and go that route. The goal is to definitely keep growing the beef herd, but I'm still looking. I'm planning on going to the sale at the end of February in Bloomington. There is a sale called Red Fest. Never been to that before, never even heard of it before. I don't know if this is the first year, second, or third that they've done it. Only problem is it's beginning of April, and I was actually really aiming to have calves on the ground before the 1st of April. So these guys, we ran these through the chute 2 days ago. They're kind of coming out of it. I mean, we knife cut all the bulls, so they are now steers, which, yeah, can kind of knock you back a little bit. They're doing a good job at cleaning up their grain. The goal is to get these guys built up on full feed. Their bunk broke. They've been out here for going on 2 weeks, and they're just now getting to the point where I can start throwing the grain in, and about half of them are getting the courage up to at least walk up and start eating out of the bunk. That's something I always looked for in calves when I was buying feeders, is if their bunk broke, they're used to having people around them. That is a lot to say for cattle that are just getting just a steer stuffer, or they're getting fed a TMR, but they really don't have any human interaction. They tend to be a little bit more, well, they are more wild. But what I did here, the bale that is sitting fresh, that is kind of leaning out, I put that on top of the old hay because that is second cut new seeding. So it's a little bit more coarse. And because these guys, after running them through the chute, it kind of knocked them back on feed a little bit. I mean, it's not like they quit eating altogether, but it's noticeable that their feed intake is kind of dropped back a little bit. So these first few bales in here are actually second cut grass from right here. I know it's not third cut because third cut went down to my place. And this stuff is really fine. And I think it's like candy for cattle, because down at my place I have a few that it's that really fine grass, really easy to eat. It's not coarse at all. And the cows, if they ever get a chance to run out through the gate on me or into the pole shed on me, they're never out. It's just when I open up the pole shed to get some hay, some of the older cows that know very well that stuff is in there, they'll run past me every time, and they just maul that second cut grass. Honestly, I'm more of a proponent for doing grass, raising Timothy orchard, whatever, for feed, for baling up and feeding our beef cows, our feeders, as opposed to doing alfalfa. I mean, if we go through, and we've done it numerous times, where we have actually fed fodder or corn stalk bales, an alfalfa bale, and a grass bale. The alfalfa bale is the absolute last thing that even gets touched. I mean, I'm talking zero interest in it whatsoever. So that's a grass bale up there. That's actually second cut new seeding. So I mean, it is a little bit more coarse, but the cows definitely eat it. There's a number of them that go for the corn fodder. I think that stuff, it fermented a little bit. I know it did because it was wet. I think all bedding last fall was wet. And they go at it like it's corn silage. So I'm all for it. You know, I think I'm starting to catch a cold. Watch out. Farmer's blow, I know. Gross to lots of people, but you grow up on the farm, it's just a second habit. So what Ryan was telling me, I haven't checked his creep feeder, steer stuffer, since we filled it. I haven't looked in it. I've been telling him to keep an eye on it, largely just because I really don't want these calves run out of feed. You don't, especially when they're on full feed. Depending on how long they've been off full feed and you try to fill that steer stuffer up again, you can run into problems. They overeat and they get sick, potentially die. And he checked it yesterday morning, and he said his concern was that in the time since we've filled it, they really haven't eaten as much as he would have really expected. And I looked at it, and it's about halfway through. I mean, they are down there eating on it now. I mean, these guys are a little skittish yet, but they're getting out of it. The thing I noticed when I came out here is that Ryan bucket fed these guys for the better part of a month. And when you switch them from buckets to just throwing in a feeder, they're used to coming up to the bunk to eat. And it took a little bit of convincing to get them to want to eat consistently out of that feeder again. There were calves on each side of that. It was full. I mean, about 4 calves at the size they are can get on each side of it. And they were eating on it. That is why I put that fodder bale there. It was kind of strategic. They actually went for the fodder bale over. Once again, I pulled out another second cut grass bale. because we do have an older bale at the bottom of that feeder, and it just doesn't seem like they're going through it like they really should. These guys have been off, oh, how long has it been since they've been vaccinated? First part of January? First, maybe second week of January. I guess I'm not really sure. It's in the paperwork. When we sell these guys, we'll be sending paperwork to the sales barn, or actually our vet just emails the paperwork to the sales barn. They sell better when you have papers and you can tell people, yep, our vet is the one that did the work. We're not just saying that it had to work, that they had to work. You get a reputation going. I mean, you can potentially get better prices for your cattle. Used to do this a lot more heavier probably a decade ago when I was in my early 20s. Now that I'm in my 30s, or I just turned 30 here less than a year ago, the goal is to really get the beef cattle going again and utilize our pastures for how we're really set up. So I like having cattle around. I'm weird, I guess. It's nice raising corn and beans. I mean, when you plant a corn stalk or a bean plant, it stays right there until you come back and harvest it. The problem with cattle, they got legs, they like to roam. If they get out on you, that can be a fun challenge too. But I am noticing too, they are going for that finer grass bale I put in, so I'm glad to see that. I mean, you don't want these guys really running on empty stomach, especially if the cold weather and some snow, the snow is coming back tomorrow. The reason I put that fodder bale there, we've been putting them up probably 30 feet this way. We put a few up here. The reason I put that one there is because it sets them right next to that feeder. They're more apt to go from their bedding over to the steer stuffer, get a bite to eat, and maybe go over and get some more roughage. That's the plan. Really don't want to be bucket feeding them anymore if we don't have to. I mean, when they do have full feed, they can eat whenever they want, when they want. There's less rushing to get to the bunk, and they grow better, in my opinion. We do not implant. We used to. Dad and Ryan don't. I will definitely be considering it again. Initially, I just want to get some feeders going and sell them after I wean them off the cow. Try to raise them as cheaply as possible. I mean, that is the name of the game. You don't want to put a bunch of money in them, sell them and break even, or find out that they cost you money to have. But I wouldn't mind finishing out a few steers or heifers or all of my cattle, but initially I have to get the calves around. I won't be buying feeders to finish or to background. Did it, made money at it, lost a lot of money at it, not willing to do it again. I would much rather, and I'm going to, raise my own cattle, raise up my own calves out of the cow, have the cow year round, full time, and she can help raise that calf until we put him in on feed to get him ready for selling as a feeder or a yearling, or finish him out. So I got this out yet, and I'll probably do a video on it, but we got a crack coming out right here, so I'm gonna pull this back to the farm, weld that up. This is the first that this tub has actually given us any issues since we've had it. I mean, it's probably the most trouble-free piece of equipment we have on the farm. The winch gave out. The winch didn't give out, I shouldn't say that. The handle stripped out here because it's supposed to fit onto this bolt. It's got a flat surface on it, and it's, see, I shouldn't be able to do that. So I'm going to take it back to the farm and address that, because we had to lift it with the JCB so we could lock the tires up. We forgot that to fold this in, it's probably not going to let me do it because I got it chained, but this actually hits the tire because this bar should be up on that stand. So I'm going to pull it back to the farm real slow and get this all put back together and fixed up, and we'll be done with that for a while. We go through Ryan's calves for when he's planning on selling them. They probably won't be getting a second round of vaccinations. Dad's cows, we're considering it, but all we really have to do, according to our vet, is instead of having to rent the cattle chute and set the cattle chute up, all we got to do is set the panels up and the tub up, block the exit door on that, and then run a bunch through, and then Not exactly as efficient, but it's still doable, especially for only the number of calves that we have to run through and vaccinate. Squeeze them into that, squeeze them up real tight, and then just jump over the top and give everybody their shots. Come on, let's go. So I got Rocket and Calvin today. Come on, buddy. Yeah, so I gotta get the net wrap out of the back of the truck, but the dogs like having something to lay on. And that's all I got, guys. My fingers are froze and I gotta go contend with a few more issues. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.